Wait.
About that. That I can guarantee.
Donna?
The notice requirements provided in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in the new schedule of meetings of the Spotswood Borough Council on December 30th, 2016. The new schedule was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and the Sentinel, is filed with the clerk of the Borough of Spotswood, and posted in the municipal building located at 77 Summerhill Road, Spotswood, New Jersey. Tonight's caucus meeting is being recorded and will also be uploaded to YouTube channel along with the regular meeting.
Councilman Stolen?
Here.
Councilwoman Rhodes?
Here.
Councilman Malillo?
Here.
Councilman Rivera?
Here.
Council President Ritchie?
Here.
Mayor Sealy?
Here.
Our engineer has notified us that he is going to be a little bit late getting here tonight. So while we're waiting for him, we're going to begin with the EMS committee presentation. Just a little bit of history. In January, after Mayor Sealy was elected and took office, he created a committee to look into how best to handle the EMS in this town. He appointed a committee of volunteers in town, along with Marge, who is the council liaison, and myself. This committee's had several meetings and put in a number of hours to come up with a solution. So they have a presentation tonight. We have two of the committee members here tonight, Jackie and Ed Smith, and Marge is going to go ahead and start this for us.
Yep, I'm good. Hi, everybody. You all have a copy of the handout. I have copies here of what I'm going to present, and you know what? I'm free to answer any questions at any time. So if you have a question, just let me know. So as Council President Ted Ritchie said, we were formed, Mayor Sealy formed a committee. You know, we had the ballot question last year, and it was defeated. Well, we felt that we needed to really look at this from a lot of different perspectives, and that's what we did. So I just want to start off by thanking the members of the committee.
No, because she's not on the microphone.
And besides myself and Council President Ted Ritchie, we had Mrs. Jackie Palmer, who's here in the audience, Mr. Charlie Spicuzzo, who's on a lounge chair somewhere on vacation, so he could not be with us tonight. Mr. Andrew Zaborny, who's now on the soccer fields as we speak with his children, and I'm hoping he'll come in before we end, and Mr. Ed Smith is here. So we were appointed by Mayor Ed Sealy. We had 6 meetings over 4 months. We had over 20 hours of meetings. We interviewed the Borough Business Administrator, Don McDonald, the CFO, Joe Zanga, former EMS Director, Robert Kirsten, the current acting EMS Director, who's here tonight, Dave Nichols, Strategic Billing Enterprise CEO, Brian Lewis. We reviewed all of those that are listed there, the Spotswood EMS history of operations. We looked at financial data, the EMS best practices statewide. We also looked at EMS, the responses we got to the 2 requests for proposals for EMS services that we received from the bidders. We looked at current and past response times for EMS, billing practices, and other municipal models to see what other municipalities similar size did to deliver their EMS services. So we did a lot of research. So as a result of all this research and those 20 hours of meetings, we had some great discussions. We really grilled, I think Dave can testify. We grilled the people who came and met with us. We threw lots of questions at them. We really listened to their answers. And I think you'll see that reflected in the recommendations tonight. And it was wonderful because it really was a yin and yang, right? So there were some of us who had some opinions coming into this and others had other opinions, but we all really took this charge very seriously. And the most important outcome we wanted was the best quality of care for our residents. Truly, end of story, the best quality of care. And we think we've crafted a proposal that will give us that. And so let me go on to do that. So first of all, we'd like to support our EMS chief because that's what we want to name him, from an EMS director to a chief. Because we have a fire chief, we have a police chief, well, we think we need to have an EMS chief. And we want to support that person. Right now, we have the business administrator who is who has many departments reporting to that role, to Dawn. So we'd like to support the EMS with a Citizens Advisory Committee appointed by the mayor, Mayor Ed Seeley, and we'd like it to consist of 5 members with the EMS chief as an ad hoc member. So the EMS council liaison, which now is me, but in the future will not be, perhaps. And so that person should always be involved with the Citizens Advisory Committee. And we'd look for four volunteers from the committee, from the community. And I kind of put the squeeze on the people that were around the table debating about the EMS services, and we actually have, I think, 4 volunteers from the committee. So it's nice that we have that. But truly, it's up to the mayor to decide who he wants to have be a part of that. And the EMS chief would be an ad hoc member of the committee. So then, over all the operations of EMS, because of the medical piece of EMS, we would have the medical director. And that is currently in place now. We have a contract signed, and that medical director is really responsible for all of the medical part of the services. We would have the EMS chief, formerly known as the director. We want them called the EMS chief, and that would be a full-time position. That person, truly we have found over the years, and I think this is our 5th, Dawn, in 3 years?
About that.
5 EMS director in 3 years. You cannot have a good operation with that turnover. So we're hoping by making that chief full-time. Hi, Frank.
Good evening.
Come on in. Take your time. By having that position full-time, we'll have stability at the top, and that leader will run the operations of the EMS and have full responsibility for those operations. The supervisors, again, we would keep the rest of the staff of EMS as a per diem role, and not to exceed 29 hours. So supervisors would either be 4 or 5 supervisors, whatever we needed to cover the hours during the week to have the team, and we're going to talk about the staffing structure in a couple of slides. So each of those supervisors would have additional roles, right? So they would have quality control, patient records, supply supervisor, so making sure the oxygen is where it needs to be, the tubing, all of that stuff. Vehicle maintenance is a key part, and the training. The training is key because the training gives those EMTs the skills that they need to be current in their practice, and that directly impacts on the quality of care for our residents. And Frank, I'm just going to give you a copy of what I handed out before you got here so that you can follow along. Here you go, Frank.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So those supervisors will be designated and possibly rotated so that they each can do the other supervisor's job. So you'd have all of them trained in clinical coordination, which would encompass quality control, patient records. All of them would be trained with supplies, all of them would be trained with vehicle maintenance, and all of them would be trained on training. And the EMT staff, what Mr. Nichols had said to us, that 24, he would like at least 24 per diems on staff. The staffing pattern, so that each EMT would go to 12-hour shifts to cover 28 shifts weekly. That would encompass 336 hours, keeping individual hours to 24 to 29 hours weekly. And that's because once you hit that golden 29 and 30, you go into a part-time status, which really drives up costs in terms of insurance and benefits. Each shift to have at least 1 2-person crew and a supervisor on that can man an additional response vehicle for borough coverage. So if one crew is out of town, you at least have a supervisor who can answer with the response vehicle. And to do this, to keep our per diems, which currently are paid $13 upon hire, and then they were $13.50 after 6 months, and then they $13.77 we would really jump that rate of pay, because what we're finding is people come and go, come and go. So yourself, you know, if you're in a job and you're getting $20 an hour and you have an opportunity to do another job for $24 an hour for doing the same task, why wouldn't you go to the more high-paying job, right? So we hope that by bringing the pay up to meet the area municipalities around us, to be similar with them, we won't have the transient in and out, because there's a cost to getting people trained, there's a cost to getting people, you know, medically cleared and all of that. So you don't want that turnover. Any questions about staffing pattern?
So you're going from 1350 to, what's the jump?
We want to
17?
go to 16 per hour for the EMTs and $18 for the designated supervisors. And actually, when we talk about financials, we work that out with those rates of pay. Equipment patient charting, it was a great discussion that we had with Mr. Nichols, and he really said this is what his vision was for what we needed to do. So one of the first things we're looking to do is acquire some equipment at minimal or low cost from surrounding municipalities that are having changes in their operations. So we're hopeful that we might be able to acquire a first responder vehicle and an ambulance, and acquire that at a very low cost to the borough. The tough books, we feel that by moving to a tough books format, it just does a better job in documenting the charting that you need to get reimbursement from the billing insurance companies. And the wireless connections, Jackie really did a great job in researching what we needed to do with the wireless card in order to implement this. So we're thinking to get those tough books, laptop computers. Dawn was nice enough to get me some prices, and I think they were like $3,600 a piece with a $600 5-year warranty attached. So we believe we need to get those in place. And then additional radios for communication. What I was told was that we did have enough radios to supply, but those radios kind of walked. Oh, thank you, Kurt. Those radios kind of walked over the years, so we need to buy some more to supplement so that everyone is fully equipped and prepared.
Radios walk.
So, what goes into a cost of providing a service like this? This is what we have built: salaries, building maintenance, vehicle maintenance, equipment repair, other contractual services, materials and supplies, oxygen, clothing allowance, books, training materials, office supplies, training, safety equipment, gas heating, gasoline, computer, EDP operations. So all of those costs we looked at. And what we found was some cost savings that we could find with doing training within the borough, like having a lot of our police officers are able to be certified instructors in different programs that the EMTs need to be certified in. And so if we had people within the borough teaching others within the borough, it's a cost savings to the community. So we recommended that too. So in 2016, we budgeted $422,000 from the borough to do the services that we currently have, and we utilized $356,715. We're anticipating at the current rate of transport for the patients that we pick up in the community, we make around $300,000 in billing revenue through the SBE, which is our billing strategic billing enterprise. So we're anticipating that revenue, and we actually anticipate it every year as revenue for the following budget year. And throughout this whole process, and I have my notes here. The recommendation report is how many pages, Jackie? You think? 40?
About 41.
41 pages. I have this report. If anybody wants it, you just let me know. I'd be happy to share mine, or we'll just get you a copy. But we went through every single scenario. We laid it all out. I asked the CFO to look at it. I asked our labor attorney. I asked our attorney for the council meetings, Pat Degnan. I asked the business administrator, I asked the mayor to look at it. The feedback we got was good. There was nothing substantial in the feedback. It was just comments on some of the content that we had in here. So it's not going to change any of our recommendations, and it just was more informative for us to learn different things. But truly, the most important thing through this whole process was the quality of care for our residents, because I live in town. Jackie lives in town. Ed Smith lives in town. Charlie lives in town. Ted lives in town. We want the most qualified, the best people coming to pick up if we have a medical emergency. So that was the key consideration through all of this, was to sift through all of this knowledge and figure out what would work for our town at this point in time the best. And so we recommend at this time to keep the EMS services as a department of the borough. And that's what we're recommending as the Citizens Committee appointed by the mayor to the council and to the public. And I'm open to any questions.
Fine with me. Everything's good.
Everything's good. John said everything's good, so we're okay.
Keep the EMS in-house. Keep it over here.
Yeah, you know what really, when I saw the RFPs come back this last time, it was very concerning to me, you know, as to what was happening with the market, right? Because 2 years ago, we had an RFP, we got a different set of returns, and now we got a different set of returns. So I think for now, I think we're kind of locked into continuing this. I've got to highlight Dave Nichols and the job he's been doing down at BEMS. I think he's been a great leader down there, and we're hoping that he is staying, and that through his leadership and with the advisory council that we're hoping to implement to support him in his role, that we'll be able to have a successful operation moving forward, more successful operation moving forward than we did, because we all know that at you know, any minute, any of us could have a medical emergency, and you want to have the most responsive, skilled person coming to take care of your medical emergency that we could get. So I think this is the best recommendation that we came up with. It truly was a teamwork. I got to say, Jackie took those. She really did draft the first draft of this whole 40-page document. Give her a lot of credit. She put a lot of work and time into this, and to the other members of the committee for their feedback and help with all this. This is not a one-man job. This was a 6-person, everybody all in at each meeting, giving their best efforts, and truly always keeping in mind that quality of care. So do I have any questions from the public? Go ahead, Jackie.
Great presentation. My only question is, even with the increase in hourly rate of pay, it's still a part-time position, and I'm sure you still have a turnover, because these people are just using it as a stepping stone to go
Yeah,
elsewhere.
we had the one full-time position, which would be the chief, and then you'd have the per
But
diems.
even at an increase in rate of pay, you still have a turnover, correct?
Correct. But if you have a stable force of, let's say, out of those 24, you have a stable force of 18 to 20, and then truly, you have that continuity you need to work as a team, because to work as an EMS, you have to work as a team. You're not out there on that rig by yourself. You have a team around you. So you all need to work together very well. And that can only come with trusting each other and working together on a regular basis. And we're hoping with a full-time director and either 4 or 5 supervisors, that would stabilize that per diem team, you know, and they do their 2 shifts a week with you know, there would just be a more stable force than what's happening now, because you have, I think, Dawn, what was it you said, out of 19 per diems, we only had 9 that were here last year?
Only about half
Only about half.
have been here
And that's a lot of, that's 50% turnover, so that's something we want to avoid. And we think truly by raising the rate, it will help.
But do you anticipate some of these people working in other towns?
They all do. Go ahead, Jackie.
Excuse me 1 minute. Anyone that speaks from the audience must come to the microphone because we're not picking it up on our tape. Thank you.
Don't want to
Thanks,
miss
Jack.
a minute of it.
Sorry, and I lost my voice too, so you're all going to have to listen very
I gave my water,
carefully.
But
Jack, when we researched, like, say, Monroe, for example, Monroe is a ginormous municipality compared to Spotswood. However, they only have 20 full-time employees on their EMS department. They are made up, a majority of, all of them are per diem. And they actually only have they have four stations, and I believe they have 4 full-time supervisors. And then the rest of they have about 12 full-time EMTs, and the rest are, I think there's 4 like clinical coordinators and such like that, like higher level. So we did that research for this very same question that you asked.
And actually, that's a good point. We looked at South River, which has a blend of the volunteer and the paid, and it's very hard to bring a volunteer force back from not being a volunteer force, and there's a lot of obstacles to making that work. So we were thinking maybe we could do some kind of blend, but we got a lot of feedback that it would probably be almost impossible to do. So we kind of dropped that idea. And I want to just highlight Andrew Zaborny is here from the soccer fields. So Andrew was a key part of our committee too.
One of the things, Jack, one of the things we're hoping for is by raising the rate up, we're going to stave off people going someplace else. At $13 an hour, they're all leaving to go for 16 and 17. A lot of these people work 2 days a week in Monroe, a day a week in South River. If they come and get 2 days a week over here, there's their full-time week. So if we're giving them $16 an hour, you may find that somebody who's got a job somewhere wants to work Mondays and Tuesdays over here.
So are we competitive with Monroe and neighboring towns?
We're a little bit less than they are, but competitive, closer. 16, $12 a day difference isn't going to be the end of the world. But when they were getting paid $11 to $13 an hour, they were coming in here, getting a couple days on the ambulance, and off they went. So hopefully we get a little bit more stable crew coming in now. That's the hope. Let's put it that way.
And the other thing too is, Jack, we were hiring people that were fresh out of training because other experience, that other services that were paying more were taking the people that had experience and getting them to work in their area, in their towns, while we were getting newbies. And as soon as the newbies had some experience so that they could apply for other jobs, we were losing them to other municipalities, of course, that pay better, right?
And also now we're asking for better certified people. You can't come here with wet ink on your card anymore. We're putting in, I believe, a 2-year minimum of 911 experience since we're going to pay a little bit better. When we were paying less, we couldn't demand that because they were all working someplace else already. So right off the bat, anyone new coming in already has some 911 time, and I'm not talking about riding the on-time ambulance, making transports to the hospital, real 911 experience. That's the goal here.
Yeah.
By raising the rate up, we can cherry pick a little bit better.
Any other questions from anyone?
What's
Again,
changed from last year?
oh, Penny, come on
Want
up
to come
here.
up to the mic, please?
You're going to make me work
Thank
now.
you, Penny, sorry.
Okay. All right, got to do it. Okay. What's changed from last year when, I'm all for having our own EMS. I've been for it all along, but last year there was no way that we could afford it. So what's changed from last year to now, to your recommendation that we're going to be able to afford to do this plan?
I'll tell you what, I was on the fence right going into this because I wasn't sure. I was one of those ones that I had seen in my years as liaison the last several years, such a turnover in directors and such disarray in terms of the service, Penny, that I didn't think it would work. But I've got to say that things happen for a reason. And when we got our last RFP proposals back and I saw that the price that was there, and then we had another EMS director. I just couldn't believe we got another resignation in the EMS director. But then it was fortuitous because we got someone who assumed, he's the acting EMS director, right away knew how we needed to do this, was very direct in his recommendations, this is what he needed to be successful. We spent hours with Mr. Nichols. I've called him numerous times. He's responsive. He gave us a plan. And I gotta say, I want to support this going forward because I think at this point in time, we have no other alternative. I think we need to go this way. Jackie, do you want to speak? Like what made you think?
Thank you.
But I think Jackie's been positive about it all the time.
Part of the answer too is that we have a mayor this year that's actually cares, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, as you know, I have always been in support of keeping our own service in town. And, you know, in conversation with Mr. Sealy, through all of, you know, through our election and all the things that we've worked together on, he knew my position, and I think he strongly felt that if there was going to be a different way to do it, that putting a group like the group that he put together, we would find it. So I'm thankful that Ed took that initiative to really let us look hard at all the details and the facts and be able to put together something that was so comprehensive that everybody could look at and say, you know what, you're right. I mean, it is what it is at this point. So I'm confident that the plan that we put together is really going to benefit the borough. So,
Ed, you want to come up and share your thoughts? And Andrew, you're next.
That's what I gave you. Just I didn't give you that.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank the mayor for putting the committee together and for choosing me to be part of that. When my thoughts were very open going in, I didn't know what to expect. Okay, like we said, we did a lot of research, a lot of interviews, and we think we came up with the best plan. Okay.
I gotta say something.
When you looked at the RFPs, there were issues with one of the people that are one of the groups that applied, and the other one was not cost prohibitive. Okay, let me just put it at that. Okay, so you know, I think we put together the best possible ideas. I also agree with what Marge said. We interviewed Dave, okay, and we're very confident with his approach. What do you think? You know, his vision, which is important because the man on the top or the person on the top has to be responsible. I mean, it has to be able to work within a plan, and I think we got that in him. Okay. Next, I'd like to read something that Charlie sent along. Okay. It says, Mayor Sealy, members of the Borough Council, members of the SEMS Committee, and residents of Spotswood. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the mayor for trusting and believing in me and asking me to be a member of the committee. It is a true honor and privilege to be part of something so important to the governing body and the residents of this great community. I would like to apologize for not being present tonight at the presentation of our proposal to council. Prior obligations are keeping me from attending. Like Mart says, he's laying on the beach with a cocktail. I'll just throw that in.
We wish we were all there.
That's right. Jealousy will get us no place. Okay? I'd also like to thank the fellow members of the committee, Marge, Ted, Jackie, Andy, and Ed. We all came to the table with different ideas, but all worked very hard together and discussed what would be best for our town. And we come to what we think is a great decision. I need to give an extra thanks to Jackie for doing hours of research and providing useful and resourceful information. With all of her research and hard work, it made our decision run seamlessly. Again, thank you for the opportunity to keep this issue, to help on this issue, and look forward to seeing the EMS serve our town. Sincerely, Charles Capuzzo.
Nice. Andrew, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Council, thank you for having me. Marge, great to see you. Mayor, thank you for having me part of this committee. It was a really wonderful experience to be a part of this. Known you for many years in a different capacity, known you many years, different capacity, but being at the table to make a major decision I took very serious and really to heart. I listened to all sides of the conversation, and Jackie, your time and energy was effortless, and just meeting Ed and being in presence of Charlie, and just we really had a great time, but also we didn't always agree, and we took time to listen to one another. But I think, to come down, to narrow it down to a decision like this was very, very important. I looked at it as what brought us to the table here today, and how can we prevent it the best of our ability to make a right decision from any type of controversy, any type of, and we kept to ourselves. Nothing got out of the meeting, and communication-wise until it was released, and here we are. So that was very important on our part, and I think everyone could respect that. Overall, this was a great experience for me, and I did my best, and I hope everyone accepts that. And once again, Mayor, thank you for entrusting myself and my family, and we're very pleased to be here in Spotswood and be a part of this as well. So, thank you.
Very good.
We talk about volunteers and how this makes the borough move so smoothly, and truly those people that came up to the podium today and spoke were volunteers in all senses of the world and in all senses of the word. And this is just one part of their volunteerism. All of them have volunteered for other things in this town, and they are why living in a small town is a wonderful thing. So, Mayor, I leave it in your hands. This is our recommendation. I know you read that 41 pages that I dropped on your desk, and that we made our recommendation. So what the governing body decides to do with it, and is in your hands now. So, thank you for the opportunity for doing this. Thank you for allowing us the freedom to explore and actually get face time with all of our borough professionals so that we could come to a good decision. So thank you.
May I?
Yes?
Well, tonight wasn't proof that using citizens in government is not a big deal. I don't know what is. I mean, I'm very thankful of Jackie, Ed Smith, Andrew Zaborni, Mr. Guzzo, Marge, and Ted Rickey. You all did a great job. I knew that by putting your heads together on one solid issue with nothing but that issue in mind, that the issue might have a chance. It was a strong issue during the campaign, and I even admittedly went out quite obviously and said we need to go another round. But I was also open-minded enough to think that maybe there's another way. I opened that door, and I opened it to people that I trusted, and those people did an excellent job, and I can't commend them enough. I really can't. Thank you very much. And as she said, this is merely a recommendation, but a strong recommendation, as we can all sit here and see tonight. And I'm confident that council will come to an answer on this rather quickly.
If I may, I'd like to address Penny's question as well. I thank all the members of the committee. I think now you have a very good idea of what this administration and governing body, the members that were here before, went through during the entire episode of having to address what we had. And what we had was a personnel nightmare. I mean, we had numerous and consistent issues that were affecting safety and the workspace that we had down there. I'm hopeful that this will work. With the donation of equipment, it's certainly worth trying. But I'll say that before we went out with our public question, we had members who were on the side of the committee and said, we have to find a way to make this work temporary, not temporary, with part-time employees. Actually, they seem to be temporary. Our turnover rate has been 50 to 75% in the past 3 years. And dealing with the director that we had, and he said, listen, we have no commitment from part-time people to this borough. And we can increase it $3 to $5 an hour. I hope that makes a difference. But we didn't have it before. We had to take people that had fresh ink on their cards because we just didn't have anybody else applying. It's more than money as well, I fear, because we have less than 3 calls a day in Spotswood, and most people that are EMTs want to use the skills and build the skills that they have by using them. And that's not going to happen here because of our size. So I'm hopeful. I'm willing to give it a shot. You guys did a lot of work. You see what we did before we went out and had to do these RFPs. Something had to be done, and we did what we felt we had to at the time. The studies are moving targets. Certain issues are changing. The donation of equipment is critical for my support, because I would not be willing to purchase new ambulances to try this for a year. But if we can get the turnover rate to stop, people make a difference. If we get the right people and they stick with us, we certainly have the right director now. I appreciate what he's been doing. This may be able to work. But I'm going to be hopeful, but I'm going to remain skeptical until I see that we have a year under our belt and it's working. Because we had personnel issues that none of us want to deal with again. Thank you.
Council President.
John, if I might,
Anything? Yeah.
just one more second.
You know,
Oh, John, go ahead.
yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The mayor and they're a great committee, they're good people here. And you had to raise the hourly rate on these people, men and women. 16 and 18, they're going to come to work. And you're going to get reliable people, plus whatever you have, and plus new ones, if they, whatever, the credentials are there. And the director's a great person, and I think it's going to be fine. And you're only going to, you get what you get when you pay. And you're going to get good stuff. So I'd say that the mayor and the committee, and I would say they did a good job swinging it around, really. I mean, you got to say yes, there's no question. Because you're going to pay them a decent buck, and which is true. I mean, I think it's going to be great, and I'm happy to see it stays here anyway. I want it to stay in the town. I don't want to be vendors and this and that and worried about them and all this contract stuff, and there's always something wrong here and there. This way, we take care of it. That's what I like. And you give them a nice wage, and that's the thing. That's the story. And you're going to be all right, I believe. That's it. Thank you. All right.
Jose?
Like I said, I've always been for keeping EMS in-house. You guys did a good job, the committee. And I work with Dave on a lot of different little things, and it's going in the right direction. So again, I thank the committee, and guys did a very good job. That's it.
I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Nichols too. I'm so sorry. I had a discussion with him early on when I contemplated talking to him about acting director, and he not only is very perceptive, he ran with the ball and just went and took off. As well, I'd like to thank all the professionals in town for their advice and help during this.
Absolutely.
Because it just shows that things can be accomplished if you stop and listen. I think we've probably done what Spotswood's done before. We've probably just set another landmark goal for other towns to follow. More people will probably start doing this, because what better than the residents of the town to help, the people who pay the tax, the people who have to live with this. Thank you again.
We're going to go to the engineer's report now. Bruce?
Thank you, and my apologies for being late. I was at another meeting that I was at longer than I thought I would be. So my capital improvement or capital project review, the Daniel Road water treatment plant improvements, the contractor is advising us he intends to be complete with all the punch list items this week. So if he in fact meets that commitment, then for your next meeting, we would have a closeout payment for your consideration, and then we could settle up with FEMA. Mady Avenue Phase 2, we're scheduled to receive bids on the 18th of this month. The Cottage Street areas, we had a conference call with the Borough Auditor today, and he's working with us to get us financial information we need, along with the CFO, so we can keep that moving along. The Emergency Services Building Project, the contractor, this is something I got from the architect. The contractor has completed the exterior stucco work. The electric service wires have been installed. The trench has been backfilled. The generator platform walls have been poured, and the top slab rebar work is ready for inspection. The slab in the existing rear addition and the back door service pad have been poured, and once they get a framing inspection, they will begin work on the gypsum wallboard. And the 2017 trust fund application, we've not heard anything about that. Now, at prior meetings or meeting, I had indicated I had attended a training session as part of the Society of Municipal Engineers. This is the handout that was given. I take no credit for it. It was prepared or presented by 2 attorneys. We can talk about this in the future if you like, but I'll just give you a brief overview with my limited understanding. I am not an attorney and don't want to represent myself, but I'm kind of repeating what's in here and what was discussed at this training session. The key points here is there are wireless providers and there are facility developers. And facility developers are those who try to acquire locations and then broker them with wireless providers. Wireless providers have protection or privilege under the law. Facility developers don't always have those privilege, although some might try to suggest that they do. Federal regulations allow wireless providers to do things within public right-of-ways, but the New Jersey municipal land use law, according to the attorneys, governs in New Jersey, and that the municipalities have the right for a land use review if you think that's an avenue that you should take. They do need...
Something happened.
Your microphone may have...
Maybe, oh, it did. It was...
It did. It died when
I
you
think,
put
no,
your
I think
phone
my pad was on it. I apologize. Thank you, Pat. Should I start over, or is it right? So wireless providers and facility developers are 2 different entities. Wireless providers are like Verizon, AT&T. Facility developers try to find sites and then broker deals with wireless providers for occupancy on them. Very often the letters that you receive are from facility developers. I have met with them, one in another municipality, and it was my opinion they were trying to convince us that they were working for somebody and that they had the same rights and privileges that the wireless providers have. At this seminar, we were advised that that's not necessarily the case. Wireless providers have privileges under federal regulations, but when it comes in New Jersey, the municipal land use law applies, and you have the right, according to them, to require a land use application. It wouldn't be for all of the bulk variances. I mean, obviously, the right-of-way would not have to meet, if it's in a residential zone, it wouldn't have to be 100 by 100 and have certain setbacks, because in a right-of-way, you couldn't do that. Primarily, what you would focus on is the height. And if you have poles out there that exceed the height for that particular zone, they're non-conforming uses, but if somebody wants to mount something on top of that, it's an expansion of a non-conforming use, and therefore a variance may be required. So there's also the thought that towns can impose fees, taxes, levies, or assessments and make money on this, and we were advised that is not the case. There's no real revenue drawn from this. That is not the intent of it. As far as the land use board goes, is what I indicated is you're really not looking at bulk variances. You're primarily looking at height. If you're looking in your residential zone and the height is 35 feet to the peak of a home, or 30 feet to the midpoint between the soffits and the peak, whatever your ordinance might say for the various zones, and that pole is taller than that, and they want to expand that, that would be a variance. I was on Route 1 North in North Brunswick over the weekend, and I saw a mini tower. the average person probably drives by and doesn't notice it. The DOT does not require any applications or permits for this, we've been advised. The DOT just embraces it and lets them put them up. It was probably 40 to 50 feet tall. It was aluminum, and it had the antennas around it. So take your normal monopole cell tower, shrink it in half to 1/3. I would be concerned for you if you wound up with one somewhere in town where it might not be aesthetically pleasing. So that is my concern for you, that you don't just enter into an agreement and then find that perhaps something's going to come into town and you've given away your review rights. I defer to Mr. Dignan or whomever else you want to speak with on this, but I would say if you have to respond to this, I would suggest asking them for a location plan identifying where they would like to locate and what specifically they will do at each location, and you'll evaluate it, and if necessary, you'll defer it to a land use board for review. And then if that's the case, they can make that application. And it's only to provide controls for you that you don't wind up with something in town that you wish maybe had been moved somewhere else or not put in that location. It doesn't matter to me, it's whatever you want to do, but it was just happened that a few weeks earlier, had attended a training session. I've given you copies of the 2 documents that were given to us, and I leave it to you. I don't have all the answers on this by any means. I just sat there for 2 hours and listened, and then lo and behold, in Middlesex County, the requests started to roll out. So I'm just trying to share it to help shed some light on it. Certainly no expert on it. But I think you'd be unhappy if you saw one of these mini poles in town.
Just using existing telephone
God bless
poles
you.
in the right-of-way?
I'm not sure, and I haven't read the agreements that they want executed, and the proposition I heard was for little cans to go on top that kind of look like transformers but are bigger. I've heard that they can sit on top of the pole instead of on the side of the pole, and that the mini system is within there, but then mini poles come up. And mini poles, in my opinion, are small, mini relative to a normal 130-foot monopole, typically. But even if it's the size of the catenary towers at the railroad track, or even the poles on Summerhill Road, which are probably 40 to 50 feet with all the wires that they carry, and that might, you're used to them, but I don't know if you'd be anxious to have a mini tower cellular installation. And I believe your ordinance regulates the distance from schools and other things. I think with yours 1,000 feet, I'm trying to remember. But that's basically it. I guess read that and then decide how you'd like to proceed. And
I think we should be proactive and bringing it to the planning board level as well and speak with them. I think we should be able to regulate how many different carriers are going to be there so each pole doesn't get multiple units. And I think we should have a way of reviewing what it's going to look like. I think we should be proactive because this wireless technology is growing exponentially and it could really take off. It could be the way we get internet from now on instead of having wires come into our home. So I think we should do that, raise it to the planning board, speak with the attorney there and see what we have to do to make some type of, keep some type of tabs on it so we have a control over it.
I think it's something, in the article says, it's something we all use and it's something we all need.
Yes.
It's not saying that...
It's like power. It's like electric.
Yeah, it's not saying no to it necessarily, but just managing it so you're happy with how it evolves in your community.
I'm still a little confused. Like Verizon used to pay a franchise fee for having the poles in the right-of-way. Then when they said they didn't have 50% of the dial tone, they took that away. Now, if they put up another revenue-generating system on their poles, why does that not have to go back and trigger a franchise fee? Only because franchise fees dealt with wired telephone communication?
I can't answer that question. As I said, not an attorney and not that well-versed in this at all, but if you think about we talked about this at the last meeting, if you think about the application to put the mini antennas on top of the Verizon building on Main Street, Verizon Wireless had to get permission from Verizon to do it because they are not one company. They function as two very distinct companies, and Company A wants compensation from Company B. So I apologize, I don't.
Company B is non-union. Verizon Wireless is non-union. That's why they want money from them for doing this.
But when you think about it, the franchise fee was for their trucks using our roadways, all the wear and tear of maintaining the wiring and the poles. Well, they're going to be doing the same thing with the wireless structures as well.
Well, the communique we got from Verizon itself, they state existing poles or new poles.
Or new poles. So I think we have to bring it to the planning board and have them take a look at it and make.
Or, you know, if you don't want to push it right there, just ask them for more information and detail. Where, how high, what type, what exactly, send you pictures, and then maybe defer it or move it to the board so that you have an idea.
Well, and also to regulate just how many can be put up there. And we just start
Just
looking
so
like,
that you don't, the town,
each pole could be a disaster. You wouldn't want that all throughout the neighborhoods.
So the letter that triggered all this discussion came from a wireless provider, not a facility developer.
I think it was a facility developer.
It was a
I
facility
think
developer.
it started off saying something, but if you look at the last sentence in it,
Yeah.
there was a name that sounded like a facility developer to me.
Okay, because I agree with Kurt. I think, you know, we don't want to get in a bidding war. Why should a facility developer, you know, hold hostage our residents if, you know, if it's so important to get the internet as we all need? I agree. Go to the planning board, let them take another look at it and get the research that they need to make a good decision.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions for Bruce?
Yes, Crescent Avenue. It's going to be done by the 8th, you think?
I haven't even driven it. The mornings that I come by, they were working out on Heffron,
Supposed to be done, right?
out on
But I
Heffron
know
and
it's
paving.
down.
Well, they
It's
lost Friday
moved
for
down.
rain and everything,
They
too.
were delayed because of the
Probably slowed
rain.
that down a little bit.
Yeah.
A little downpour we had.
Okay.
Little downpour.
They only started at the Heffron end today.
Yep.
Day?
That's what I saw this
I
morning.
haven't been down there.
They did the turn on and then backed up and pulled it. I just stopped for a couple minutes. I saw what they were doing. I said, okay, they're working that way. That was all. Good enough. The guys were all standing out there. I knew they knew what they were doing, and I left.
And I just want to say thanks to John, because truly, that paving, John took that as an issue before he was on the council and, you know, really drove that so that we did get action. And John, so you should feel good to see those trucks out there putting that new road down. My other question to you, Bruce, is what, in terms of percentage of the EMS building being completed, what would you say we're at what point now? Because I know we're trying to aim for October for occupancy, but just wanted to ask you.
I don't have that number. I'll be happy to ask the architect that.
Okay.
What I will say is, I was a little skeptical of the contractor in the building, and since then I've invited him to work on another project that I have. So I'm very impressed with how he handles it. He's moving along, and he looks out for the borough and offers suggestions and doesn't always ask for money. It's not always about money. So
Good.
like I said, I invited him to come bid on something else I have, so.
Okay.
So I think you're in good hands there. I don't want to speak to the schedule because Mr. Iovino's office is handling that. And I can certainly, I'll make a note, and I'll either call or email Darius tomorrow and ask him to let Dawn know what he thinks
Great.
the percentage complete is. Okay? I just try and be that connect for you because he's not here to give that, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
We actually have a document here that says that we're between 63 and 65% complete.
Terrific.
That's according to the payment estimate that we're approving tonight.
Then I won't make that call.
Great.
Okay, we have resolutions under the consent agenda, 2017-80. The CFO is authorized to pay the sum of $3,305 for third-party redemption of tax sale certificate number 16-00011 for property commonly known as Block 111.6, Lot 2, being all premiums, taxes, interest, and costs due to Mr. Stuart Lasher. 1781, the Borough Council authorizes pay estimate number 5 to JG Drywall, recommended by our Carrie Iovino Architects for work performed for the period through April 28th on the Emergency Services Building in the amount of $166,916.54. 1782, the Borough Council authorizes the appropriate officials to apply and execute the Click It or Ticket Seatbelt Grant for May 22nd through June 4th, 2017. 2017-83, the Borough Council authorizes the appropriate officials to apply and execute federal funding for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Grant for compensation in the amount of $19,335. 1784, we award a contract for custodial services for the municipal building to Matrix Janitorial and Floor Maintenance, as they were the most responsible low quote provided for this service. 1785 is the payment of bills. We have some proclamations. We'll hold those till the regular meeting. Are there any comments from the council, or do we want to hold those for the regular meeting? John?
Nothing.
Kurt?
No.
Jose?
No.
Okay. This time we're going to open it to the public.
Motion to open to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone who would like to come forward to comment or discuss anything that's gone on in the caucus meeting tonight?
A motion to close public hearing?
Second. We got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, give us
All
a
in
few
favor?
minutes.
Aye.
Give us a few minutes and we'll be ready with the regular council meeting.